New Kamala Harris interview. What did I tell you, chat? The Fox News talking point of she doesn't talk to the press only had so much longevity to it. Of course, they're going to keep saying it after this. They are going to keep saying she doesn't talk to the media. This will not be enough to undo all that, especially because I don't know if there's like a follow-up interview. I don't know when the next one is. She's also doing it with Tim Walz, which I think is controversial, but obviously the right move for the campaign. You want the most attention on you as possible, and Tim Walz brings a lot of attention, so I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. These are two relatively unknown candidates, and having them talk to the media together helps people understand them both at the same time. So this is fine. This is good. What's bad is everything they're saying. Let's hear.
Generally speaking.
First of all, it's Dana Bash, one of the biggest Zionists in mainstream media, and I'm not even joking. Her husband was literally a CIA agent, and this is the first clip released from the interview. It airs tonight in about an hour, and we're going to watch it when it comes out live, so very exciting. But first things first, Dana Bash, huge L, Dana Fash, creepo.
How should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you explained some of here, in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed.
And I love the police.
You mentioned the Green New Deal.
I never supported it. What are we watching? This is the first clip of the Kamala Harris interview, the first interview she's doing with the media. This is super important. This is going to define the next, 2-3 weeks of media narrative, at least. And I'm honestly not expecting much to change, chat. I'm genuinely expecting more of the same kind of media coverage we've seen since even before the DNC. Anyway, she's already talking shit about the Green New Deal.
I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have set goals for the United States of America and by extension the globe.
What does this have to do with the Green New Deal? Are you saying we've done it once, we've done sweeping legislation once with the Inflation Reduction Act so we can do the Green New Deal? Personally, that's not what it sounds like. But also, again, circling back to Joe Biden's signature economic accomplishment that genuinely isn't that good for people isn't gonna help you. You need to break away from Joe Biden. You have to escape his clutches.
Around when we should meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value...
Oh, God. And then she starts talking about the border. It's why did you even bring up the Green New Deal? Why did you even talk about it in this conversation? Now you're talking about the border? Girl, we're talking about the economy, or we're talking about the climate, you freak. And on climate is a Democrat exclusive issue. Her being we can tackle climate change, but we can also tackle the problem at the border. That's crazy. That doesn't work. There isn't a voter who has both of those things on the top of their mind.
Value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminals.
She's trying to make an argument for her own competence, which is just kind of embarrassing too. Doubling down by saying no, I am competent because I will shut down the border or whatever. I'll do this insane border bill, and that's why I'm competent. It's what the fuck?
Organization.
That's why I can also do not the Green New Deal, but some other vague climate legislation that won't create as many jobs as the Green New Deal. Hassan has said this in the past, and he's right. You should talk about the Green New Deal like a jobs program, because it is. It literally is. It's a training and jobs program. It's an economic package. It's I don't know.
Of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings
Both
across...
Kamala and Trump suck donkey balls, but I feel voting third party is kind of pointless. That's because it is pointless.
Our border. My values have not changed.
My values have not changed. Just crazy. This is bad. Notice how Dana Bash had no problem continually interrupting J.D. Vance, but she allows Kamala to speak uninterrupted for, 30 seconds of this clip? That's so funny. They act like they just saw the whole interview when they definitely didn't.
Them on the trail as they visited the battleground of Georgia.
Let's go.
Just 68 days from the election.
We're coming up, baby.
Governor Walz, thank you so much for sitting down with me and bringing the bus. bus tour is well underway here in
The
Georgia.
quality.
You have
Whatever.
less time to make your case to voters
Georgia
than
mentioned-
any
they are in
candidate
Georgia, yeah.
in modern American
I don't know if Georgia
history.
flips blue, chat. I'm
The
skeptical.
voters are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
That's a hard maybe.
Well, there are a number
might
of
be
things.
purple.
I will tell
Oh,
you
God.
first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions
Do
of
you
the
think North
American
Carolina
people,
flips?
I think that
was
people
blue
are
last
ready
time.
for a new way forward.
You mean flip red?
In a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think sadly, in the last decade,
North Carolina was not
we
blue in
have
2020?
had in the
Oh,
former
shit. You're
president
right.
someone who has
What the fuck?
really been pushing an agenda
My bad.
and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans. Really
Okay, this sucks.
dividing our nation.
Word
and
salad,
I
word
think
salad,
people are
word
ready to
salad. This
turn
is
the
bad.
page
This
on
is
that.
bad.
What would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy.
Sleepy Kamala.
I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life, to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is
Alexa's
about
home.
investing in the American family
Yeah,
around
she's
affordable
yapping right
housing,
now.
a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one.
What about you?
Well, I'm excited about this agenda too. As I said, the idea of inspiring America to what can be, and I think many of these things that the vice president's proposing are things that we share in values. And the child tax credit is one we know that reduces childhood
Okay,
poverty by a
wow.
third.
Fucking
We did it
Tim
in
Walz is the
Minnesota
first
have a
guy to talk
federal
about
partner in
policy.
this.
God damn it.
Unbelievable,
Kamala.
I think, in the impact that we can
Thank
make.
you, Tim. Thank you,
Talk
Tim.
about, you call it the opportunity economy. You are well aware that right now
Return
many
of Lex.
Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of
Tim W.
affordability.
Fucking God.
One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to
it's
the
okay.
economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable.
Tim needs to
when
be
Donald
running
Trump
instead of
was
her. Well, the
president.
good thing is he is running, technically.
Well,
just
let's start
SVP.
with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office,
Here, I don't
during the
want-
height of a pandemic,
Oh,
we
you-
saw over 10 million
Ai
jobs
Mr.
were
Sial
lost.
tenere in fair costume ideas.
People, literally, we were all tracking the numbers.
Pizza
Hundreds
Pusa
of people
Pia
a day were
Italiano,
dying
no
because
li
of
ca
COVID.
comunism là.
The
You're
economy
talking
had
over
crashed.
the president. She's
In
speaking.
large part, all of that
You have
because
to
of
go as a little
mismanagement
goblin
by
now to the
Donald
Ren
Trump
Fair.
of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today,
Why
we
is she
know
talking
that
about Joe
we
Biden?
have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies
Just
have led
go,
to the
dude.
reality that America recovered faster than any
about
wealthy
the
nation
future.
around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too
Joe
high.
Biden
The
is
American
dead.
people know it, I know it. Which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to
Extend
take care
or
of
make
their
permanent?
children in their most formative
No.
years. What we need to do to bring
Make
down
permanent.
the cost of housing. My proposal
Extend.
includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough
my
to put a
wiener.
down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path
She hit
to
one
achieving
policy,
that
the-
goal
the
and that dream.
25,000 down
You
payment.
have been vice president for
How's
3.5
the first-time
years.
homeowner tax credit?
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
She's
Well, first
fucking
of all,
vice
we had
president.
to recover as an economy, and we
That's
have done
also
that.
true.
I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than
That's a
3%.
good answer, at least.
The work that we have done to cap
We
the
had to
cost of
fucking
insulin
fix
at
the
$35 a month
We
for
had to
seniors.
fix what Trump did.
Said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Never happened. We did
True.
it. So now, as I travel in the state of Georgia and around our country, the number of seniors that have benefited. I was in Nevada recently, a grandmother who showed me her receipts. And before we capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month. She was paying hundreds of dollars, up to thousands of dollars a month for her insulin. She's not
Okay,
doing
that's
that
true.
You
anymore.
maintain Bidenomics is a success.
I maintain
Dana Fash is
that
literally
when
a
we
fucking
do
Fox
the
News
work
host
of
at
bringing
this
down
point.
prescription
I hate
medication
her.
for the American people, including capping the cost of
Bidenomics
the
is
annual
working.
cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000, when we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut child poverty in America by over 50%, when we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, bringing business back to America, what we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic needs.
We
I'll
brought
say
back
that
child poverty when we ended the child tax credit in 2022.
I want to get some clarity on where you stand on
We did
some
do that.
key policy issues.
Please.
Energy is a big one.
Oh, God.
When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in
Yeah, what happened to
2019,
that?
you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
It's just because it's
Do you
Pennsylvania.
still
It's so
want to
annoying.
ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020.
Yeah. She
That
said
I
she would never
not
ban
ban
fracking.
fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
Great.
In 2019, I believe, in a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no
said
question
no.
I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going
Yeah, when
forward.
she ran for president,
I kept
it
my
was
word,
different.
and I will keep my word.
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed.
This sucks.
I believe it is very important
Oh,
that we
sick.
take
This is
seriously
why she spun to
what
the
we
border.
must
She was
do
panicking.
to guard against
I love
what is
that.
a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that,
But the Green
we
New Deal
can
isn't
do
enough,
what
I
we
guess.
have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already
supposed
done,
to be like
creating over
13 trillion.
300,000 new clean energy
negotiated to
jobs.
1,
That tells
1.2.
me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana, excuse me, I
Fuck.
cast
that
the
was bad.
tie-breaking vote
She sucks.
that actually increased leases for fracking
Yeah.
as vice president.
Yeah.
So I'm very
Wow.
clear about where I stand.
And was
And
there
I
some
hate the Green New Deal.
policy or scientific
jobs.
data that you saw that you said, oh, okay, I get it now?
Nope.
What I have seen is that we can grow and we can increase a thriving clean energy economy
sucks,
without
Ryan.
banning fracking.
Okay. Another issue,
wow.
big one, is immigration.
Okay.
As vice president, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern
They really shouldn't have done CNN
countries.
chat.
And
Oh, cannot load. Uh-oh. Stick bug. A stick bug has hit the vice president.
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president that I was asked to do by the president
Bordazar.
has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including
Bordazar, baby.
historic investments by American businesses in that
They hit
region.
the second Biden.
The number of immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work. But I will say this, that
How is it?
Joe Biden and I and our administration worked
Bordazar.
with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the
not.
border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most
Our
conservative
security is the
members of
border.
the United States Congress,
Enjoy fracking,
a
world.
bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border. And because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress,
It's literally better
don't
that
put it
that
forward.
bill
He
didn't
killed
pass.
the bill.
Oh my God. Okay.
A border
Almost-
security bill that would have put 1,500 more agents on the border. And let me tell you something, the Border Patrol endorsed the bill. And I'm sure in large
And then they
part because
endorsed
they knew
him.
they were working around the clock.
Okay, then what?
And 1,500
Then
more
what?
agents would help them.
Dude,
that bill
they
would
literally-
have allowed us to increase seizures of fentanyl. Ask any
Fentanyl bot.
community in America that
They're
has
gonna
been
build the fentanyl
devastated
machine.
by fentanyl. what passing that bill would have done to address their concern and a
Bullshit.
pain that they've
So
experienced.
you would push that legislation again? I just want
Not
to ask
only
about.
push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I
Insane.
would sign it.
Just one other
Insane.
question about
Okay,
something that you
so bad.
said in 2019 when
That's
you
her
first ran.
border
There was a
solution.
debate. You raised your hand when asked whether or not,
Not good.
the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws
Fuck off.
that have to be followed
Hell
and
no.
enforced that address and deal with people who
Bullshit.
cross our border
People are
illegally,
illegal. Yep.
And there should be consequence. And let's be clear,
Awesome.
in this
No,
race,
cool, man.
I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal
Yeah,
organizations who traffic in
Kamala.
guns, drugs, and human beings.
Come to Ellis
I'm
Island,
the
you
only
get
person
arrested.
in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws. And
That's
I
right.
would enforce our laws as president going forward. I
Oh yeah,
recognize
enforce
the
the
problem.
law.
Generally speaking,
Law and order.
how
We
should
love that.
voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here?
I love the
in your
police.
policy.
Why is she
Is
running
it
on Kamala?
because you
she
have more
thinks it
experience
works.
now and you've learned more about
Suburbs,
the
baby.
information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is
She's
going
going
to
for
be
the
your
Fox
policy
News
moving
voters
forward?
that won't vote for her.
Dana, I think the
Smart.
most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time.
Yeah.
We did that with the Inflation Reduction
not
Act. We
pitching
have
anything.
set goals for the United States of America and by extension the globe.
She's talking about, like,
around
carbon
when we should
neutrality.
meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas
negative.
emissions, as
Yeah.
an example. That value has not changed. My value around what
She
we
won't
need
say
to do
how
to
long or
secure
how
our
much
border,
or whatever,
that
of
value
course
has not
not.
changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the passage, illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed. So that is the reality of it. And 4 years of
This
being
sucks.
vice president,
My values
I'll tell
have
you,
not
one
changed.
of the
People are just gonna
aspects
say
to
she's
your
lying.
point is traveling the
she
country
is.
extensively. I mean, I'm here in Georgia. I think somebody told me 17 times since I've been vice president in Georgia alone. I believe it is important to build consensus. And it is important
scored
to find a common place of understanding of where we can actually
Board is our-
solve problems.
On that note, you had a lot of Republican speakers
Trump said
at
he
the
needs to give her a
convention. Will
MAGA
you appoint a
hat.
Republican?
She is actually copying a lot of my plan. In fact, we're going to send her a MAGA cap sometime in the next week. We're having a special one made.
That's
Yes, I
brutal.
would.
Anyone
Yes,
in
I
mind?
would. No one in particular in mind. We got 68 days to go
Yeah,
with this
no.
election, so I'm not
You
putting
can't
the cart
call them
before the
weird if
horse,
you're
but
like
I
they're
would. I
actually
think-
right about all this
I
stuff.
think it's really
and we agree.
important.
Bipartisanship.
I have spent my career
Dark
inviting
MAGA.
diversity of opinion. I think it's important to have people at the table when some of the most important decisions are being made that have different views, different experiences.
on,
And I
baby.
think it would be to the benefit of the American public to have a member of my cabinet who was a Republican.
That was just the start of our wide-ranging conversation, and we have some never-before-shared details about the phone call that changed everything between President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
I'm just curious, staying on President Biden, when he called you and said he was pulling out of the race, what was that like? And did he offer to endorse you right away, or did you ask for it?
This.
It was a Sunday, so
You want a Republican in your cabinet, and then yeah, we're doing the fluff piece on the second half. I love that. Well, how did Joe Biden tell you? How happy were you? Did you do a little dance when you found out you get to run for president? Like, shut the fuck up. This is so infuriating, dude. I just can't fucking believe this shit. Oh, Walz addresses controversies. Oh, wow.
Service in the
Yeah.
National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a
Why
war zone.
the
A campaign
fuck-
official said
Oh my
that
God.
you misspoke. Did you?
Answer for your stolen valor. Thanks, fucking Dana Bash. Wow, what a good fucking interview we set up here, man. What a fucking smart idea it was to hop on CNN and just rattle off right-wing talking points, both in the form of the answers and the questions. That's cool. Yeah, CNN literally wants to undermine a progressive person. They can't help themselves. They're foaming at the mouth. They're like, Kamala Harris, how many drone strikes will you do on day one in your office? How many drone strikes will you allow? And it has to be more than 500 on day one. Otherwise, I will protest this Democrat Party. That's what Dana Bash says. And then Tim Walz is like, yeah, what do you have to say about Greg Gutfeld thinking that you have stolen valor, that you've committed stolen valor? What do you think about how fucking weird-ass J.D. Vance is making fun of your fucking military service? Let's have a Republican in the next cabinet. Can't have the first woman of color and the first woman president ever without a fucking Republican in your cabinet. God forbid we're actually progressive in any way. God forbid that aesthetic progression in American society goes hand in hand with real progress, and it actually is just a complete fucking clown show. She was also heckled in Savannah by anti-genocide protesters. I haven't covered that yet, but that did happen. She tried to handle it, and I think it's just not the talking points aren't working. She just said, like, we're working tirelessly for a ceasefire, but that's just not how it works, and it's not true. We know you're not doing that. You're just lying.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. In just 12 days, Harris will meet Donald Trump on a debate stage in Philadelphia. And when I say meet, I mean literally meet. Would you believe they have never talked face to face? The only time they've even been in the same room was when Harris was a senator watching Trump's State of the Union address. Now it's Trump watching Harris on the campaign trail with money and momentum behind her and making her case directly to voters.
As voters are getting to know Kamala Harris, they want answers on how she will make their lives better. She heard that here at Sandfly Barbecue in Savannah.
What we're going to do to increase access to capital for small businesses, I'll be rolling out next week. Part of what we're going to be doing in terms of a tax credit.
On the trail, she talks about her experience, years in the courtroom as a district attorney and eventually California's attorney general. She wants to reframe the contest as the prosecutor versus the felon.
I know Donald Trump's type. I've been dealing with them my whole career.
The former
and we should have a Republican in the cabinet too.
Personal attacks.
I'm dealing with them, and I actually want them on my side.
When she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
And in just 12 days, the nominees will meet face to face for the first time.
She's not a good debater.
Became a black
not
person.
A smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
If you've got something to say,
I heard you laugh.
I want to ask you about your opponent, Donald Trump.
Okay.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about
Wait, really? That's
is
crazy. I didn't know
what
that.
he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political
That's so
purposes,
awesome.
questioning a core part
Why
of
did
your
she
identity.
ask this? When did you turn black?
And he,
same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
that's
You have
it?
to say about
That's
the
it?
yeah
Okay.
about the turning black
Let's talk
allegations.
about some foreign policy
Oh,
issues that
okay.
would be on your plate
Great.
if you become commander-in-chief.
That was a bad answer.
President Biden has tried
She
unsuccessfully
just said same old playbook?
to end the war between Israel and Hamas.
Come
in
up with a
Gaza.
one-liner
Been
or
doing it
something.
For months and months.
Just be like
along with
typical.
you.
Like, come on, just
Would you do anything
be sassy.
differently? For
Come
example,
on, hit
would
'em.
you withhold some
poke
U.S.
them with a
weapons
stick.
shipments
Hit
to
'em.
Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
Oh,
Let me be very clear. I'm unequivocal and
Yeah.
unwavering in my
Mhm.
commitment to Israel's
Israel's right to
defense
defend itself.
and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change. But
no weapons embargo.
let's take a step back. October 7,
Let's hear how long this answer turns into
1,200
just
people
no.
were massacred. Many
Yeah.
young
October.
people
Oh my
who
God!
were
Yeah,
simply
let's get started. October
attending
7th,
a
when
music
the dawn of
festival.
history,
Women were horribly
day one.
raped.
Oh!
As I said then, I say today, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed.
You just
And
can't. You can't. That's
we've
misinformation.
got to
That's misinformation.
get a deal
Hey,
done.
CNN, where's the fact checks on this? Live fact check on the fucking Kamala Harris interview?
Deal done. This war must end, and we must get a deal.
Wow.
About getting the hostages out. I've
She
met
said
with
this
the
shit at
families
the
of
DNC
the
too.
American hostages. Let's get the hostages out. Let's get the ceasefire done.
But no change in policy.
Nope.
In terms
No
of arms
change.
and
No fucking change. Nope.
No, we have to get a deal done.
Yep, that's
Dana,
it.
we have to get a deal done. When you look at
No, we get a ceasefire. No arms embargo. We need a ceasefire. We can keep giving them weapons. They'll just promise to stop using them.
the region,
Yep. That's it.
a deal is not only the right thing to do to end this war, but will
Just how to bring the
unlock
hostages
so
home.
much of what must happen next. I remain committed since I've been on October 8th
No progress.
to what we must do to work toward a two-state solution.
This will not
where
happen.
Israel is secure.
This is a filler bullshitter answer. She will do nothing. She has done nothing. She does not give a fuck. She's working tirelessly.
the country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but
This
you
sucks,
have
dude.
never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said
This is
that you
insane.
misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud.
Weapons
I've
of
done 24
war,
years of
whatever.
wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my
She
record
got a
is
$250,000 in APAC money. Well, I'm sure she's getting more now after saying
And
that shit.
The,
There's just
the
no
idea
way.
that you said that you were in war.
That's the
Did you
only
misspeak as the
only
campaign
reason.
has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one
True.
thing I'll never do is I'll
Weird.
never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
I just, one other question, because again, this is all new.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh my
this was
God,
not,
what?
however many days
What?
ago, this was not on either of your bingo cards, especially yours. You had to clarify that you had said that you and your wife
Oh my God.
used
gonna-
IVF, but it
she's
turned out
gonna
you
hit the
used a
IUF.
different kind of fertility in order to
She's trying to
have
kill the
children.
fucking talking
And then when you ran
point.
for
Dana, this is
2006,
sabotage.
your campaign repeatedly
This is literal.
made
She's
false
she's
statements
sabotaging the campaign.
about a 1995 arrest for drunk and reckless driving.
Oh,
What do you say to voters who aren't sure whether
holy shit!
they can take you at your word?
Well, I've been very public. I think
Wow.
they can see
This
my
is more
students come
contentious
out,
than CNN has
former
ever been
folks
to a
I've served with,
Republican.
And they vouch for me. I certainly own my mistakes when I make
God
them.
damn.
The one thing I'll tell you is I wished in this country we wouldn't have to do this. I
Bloodthirsty.
spoke about our infertility issues because it's hell, and families know this. And I spoke about the treatments that were available to us that had those beautiful children there.
Kind of IVF
That's quite a
treatment.
contrast in folks that are trying to take those rights away from us. And so I think people know who I am. They know that record. They've seen that. I've taught thousands
Sorry,
of students. I've been out
IUI.
there. And I won't apologize for speaking passionately, whether it's guns in schools or protecting of reproductive rights. The contrast could not be clearer between what we're running against. The vice president's position on this has been clear. And I think most Americans get it if you've been through that. I don't think they're cutting hairs on IVF or IUI.
Look,
I think what
yeah.
they're cutting hairs on is an abortion ban
Not
and the
IUF,
ability to be able
IUI.
to deny families the chance to have a beautiful child.
Doesn't matter, bro.
Up
Fucking
next, the
insane.
moment that changed everything when Kamala Harris
Oh my
got a
God,
phone
now
call
let's
from
get into the
President
fucking
Biden
fluff.
that he was dropping out of the race.
Disgusting. This is probably the most of what
It was,
the rest of the interviews will be.
It was a Sunday. So here, I'll give you a little too much information.
Go for it.
Oh,
There's no
no.
such thing, Madam Vice President.
My family was staying with us, and including my baby nieces.
Speaking of those baby nieces, the vice president
This is
also
such an
opened
ominous
up
picture.
about a viral
Liberals think
picture
this is
from
like
the convention
inspirational or something. This is scary. Someone was like, it looks like she's sentencing her to like life in prison for truancy as a child, which is what she did to parents. But you know, demonic. I'm so like, holy macaroni. Let's take some analysis. So that was really rough. The questions are poised against the Democratic campaign. This is like the IVF conversation. She was literally trying to make Tim Walz have to stop talking. That is such a powerful talking point that he went through fertility treatments with his wife in order to have his 2 kids, his daughter Hope. That is a very good line that resonates with a lot of people. It's real. It's like emotional. And Dana Bash comes in with this criticism I've only literally seen on Twitter, and maybe like Greg Gutfeld. Like how are we listening to Greg Gutfeld's talking points come out of Dana Bash's mouth? And that's the conversation we're having. How many immigrants are you going to deport? You have to do some. Isn't Greg just a comedian? I mean, yeah, if you want to even call him that. He's closer to like a bridge troll or something. This is how Terry McAuliffe lost in Virginia. Youngkin was a nobody. Yeah, well, dude, it's not even like this, dude. This is how every institutional Democrat loses. Is just appealing to the right, trying to win these like invisible Democratic Republicans that are like super into the military, but don't like Donald Trump for whatever reason. They love like America having the most lethal military. They like that and want Israel to unconditionally defend itself, but don't think Donald Trump is the better Israel candidate. Independence, they say. You are talking about people who do not exist. They don't. Most lethal, which is literally a redundancy. Like the military is only lethal. That is the only thing it is. That is what a military is. Like, what are we doing? Most lethal? The best at killing? She said that at the DNC, dude. That is such an indication of the campaign. She said, I mean, she literally was asked about a weapons embargo and said, I unconditionally support Israel's right to defend itself. More bombs. She said, more bombs. Well, if we do a ceasefire and we keep giving them bombs, which we will, they won't use them. Right? There's a ceasefire in Gaza, but they need bombs for, southern Lebanon. They need bombs for Beirut. What do you mean? They need bombs for the Golan Heights and the northern border and Syria. What do you mean? We get a ceasefire, but we still keep giving them bombs. Anyway, we're back.
Days ago, President Biden shocked the world via tweet. That's how we found out he was dropping his re-election bid. But before he tweeted the news,
like the last time Israel said it was doing a ceasefire in Gaza, it still killed civilians. I just hope you know this. The weapons embargo is how the genocide stops. The ceasefire is a symbolic step, and it's the first symbolic step.
Debate and whether President Biden was strong enough to lead this nation again.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
Vice President Harris, you were a very staunch defender of President Biden's capacity to serve another 4 years. Right after the debate, you insisted that President Biden is extraordinarily strong. Given where we are now, do you have any regrets about what you told the American people?
Hell no.
No, not at all.
Did you lie to the
Not
American people? This is literally Greg Gutfeld. This is literally Greg Gutfeld. I'm Brian Kilmeade, and this is Greg Gutfeld, not Dana Bash. This is Greg Gutfeld wearing Dana Bash's skin. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind.
He is so smart and loyal to the American people.
Which is just Dana Bash, by the way. She's just like
hours upon hours with him, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room.
It's to be expected.
He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment.
I love the liberal media.
And disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president. By contrast, the former president has none of that. And so, one, I am so proud to have served as vice president to Joe Biden. And two, I am so proud to be running with Tim Walz for President of the United States and to bring America what I believe the American people deserve, which is a new way forward, and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really lies.
But the last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years, has been part of your administration.
I'm talking about an era that started about a decade ago, where there is some suggestion, warped I believe it to be, that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, instead of where I believe most Americans are, which is to believe that the true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up. That's what's at stake as much as any other detail that we could discuss in this election.
Because we haven't had a chance to
So
to
why
talk.
are you trying
I'm
to
just
have the
curious,
most lethal
staying
military?
on President Biden.
Who you lift up, you know. I want to lift up the brutal Israeli war government. I want to lift up war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu.
It was a Sunday, so
Not beating
here
him down.
I'll give you a little too much information.
Go for it.
Oh,
There's no
boy.
such thing, Madam Vice President.
My family was staying with us, and including my baby
What does this
nieces.
even mean? I hate this.
And we had just had pancakes and, you know, Auntie, can I have more bacon? Yes, I'll make you more bacon. And then we were sitting down to do a puzzle.
Yeah. With
And
Dougie.
the phone rang, and it was Joe Biden. And he told me what he had decided
My
to do.
only possible
And,
hope is that Kamala is just saying the pro-Israel
I
shit
asked
as
him,
a
"Are you
political
sure?"
move. Not that he should really be
And he said
hoping
yes.
for much out of a fucking
And,
oink oink, yes bitch.
and that's how I learned about it.
It doesn't matter. She's still pro-genocide. She knows what's happening. She knows that there was no mass rapes on October 7th and still lied about it.
My first thought was about him,
She's a
to
liar.
be honest.
She's lying nonstop. This is crazy.
I think history is
This
going to
sucks.
show a number of things about Joe Biden's presidency. I think history is going to show that in so many ways it was transformative,
This sucked.
be it on
Balls.
what we have accomplished around finally investing in America's infrastructure, investing in new economies, in new industries, what we have done to bring our allies back together and have confidence in who we are as America and grow
NATO,
that
baby.
alliance.
I love NATO.
What we have done to stand true to our principles, including the one of the most
really
important
hoping
international rules and norms,
she
which
would
is the
talk
importance
about
of sovereignty
NATO.
and territorial integrity.
Yes, dude.
And I think history is going to show not only has Joe Biden led an
Of
administration
Ukraine.
that has achieved
Not
those
the West Bank.
extraordinary successes,
Ridiculous.
but the character of the man is one that he has been in his life
so much
and
worse
career,
than I ever
including as a
expected.
president, quite selfless
I don't know
and
what I
puts the American
expected.
people first.
A passionate defense of the man who chose her to be his running mate 4 years ago. 4 years later, Harris made a choice of her own.
Love Joe
And
Biden.
with Governor Walz's rise to national prominence, a star was born at the convention, Gus Walz. We'll hear about that moment between father and son and the woman who could make history in the Oval Office on this
stop.
iconic photo.
Dude, Dana
Madam Vice
Bash.
President, the photograph that has gone viral. You were speaking, one of your grandnieces that you were just talking about
It
was
spells
watching you
doom.
accept the nomination. You didn't explicitly talk about gender or race in your speech, but it obviously means
how
a
do you
lot
feel
to a lot
about
of
it?
people, and that viral picture really says it. What does it mean to you?
What is race
The
and
TV
gender
moments
mean
that
to
took
you?
culture over the
Stop.
edge.
Or what does... Oh my God, what? Or is she saying, like, what does that picture mean to you? I guess that's what she means. What does race and gender mean to you? Is that pic supposed to be good for Dems? It is. Gender czar. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking she's the gender czar. This is crazy, dude. Gender, never heard of her. This is just so... It's just like... This is the worst possible outcome from this interview. I'm not joking. Kamala's just been getting worse and worse. Yes. And the post-DNC fever is broken. Like, there's no honeymoon period anymore. You know, we're really just... We're down to the brass tacks. This is where it's about performance. This is where it's about policy more than anything.
I'm in agony.
Which is why everything she's saying is the stuff she wants to actually do, which is super liberal, moderate Democrat stuff.
Is a little-known guy outside of his home state, where Minnesota Nice is a
Little-known
source
guy?
of pride. But behind all of that folksy humor and flannel, Tim Walz is far from just being Mr. Nice Guy when it comes to needling Donald Trump.
He has to answer
Governor,
for
you
this.
obviously have spoken to voters all over your state for years.
Yeah.
What are you learning in a place like Georgia?
We're seeing explosion in small business growth. The one thing is workforce and childcare, because workers have to have childcare.
Campaigning with Tim Walz,
Don't do it.
finding his role in this historic campaign.
Would you be my running mate and let's get this thing on the road?
I would be honored, Madam Vice President.
After bursting onto the national stage with this word.
These guys are just weird.
Known as a folksy father of two from rural America, now a running mate who is not holding back.
Listen to the guy. He's talking about Hannibal Lecter and shocking sharks and just whatever crazy thing pops into his mind.
And finding his own rhythm with his new boss.
What'd you order?
Brisket and greens and mac and cheese.
What about you?
I had the brisket and coleslaw on this.
And what about the spice situation, the Tabasco? What's happening with that?
I'm gonna let him speak for himself.
The vice president's growing peppers at her residence, so she's trying to like bring me along on this. You know, Minnesota peppers.
It's okay.
I'm getting there.
It's
I'm
all
getting
good. You just do you.
I just have to ask you both about two standout moments, aside, of course, from the addresses that you both gave, but standout moments that were perhaps unexpected during
I
the
want to
convention.
talk about
You
funny
mentioned one
pictures
of them,
and
Governor.
silly images that I saw on my Twitter timeline. I don't want to talk about policy anymore.
On Gus, you were speaking, the camera caught him, so incredibly proud of you, so
No more
emotional,
policy. I'm
saying,
done with
that's
that."
my dad.
Yeah,
That was a beautiful
I don't know
moment.
as a father I could have ever imagined that. I'm grateful for so many reasons to be on this ticket, but that moment, to understand what was really important, to have my son feel a sense of pride in me, that I was trying to do the right thing. And it was, you try and protect your kids,
Death of
it
Atari,
brings,
thank you for the
it brings notoriety
2
and
months.
things, but it was just
Thank
such
you.
a visceral, emotional moment that I'm grateful I got to experience it, and I'm so proud of him. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of Hope. I'm proud of Gwen. She's a wonderful mother, and these are great kids. And I think the one thing is talking about the era we're in is our politics can be better. It can be different. We can show some of these things, and we can have families involved
It can
in this.
be
And
better
I
and
hope that
different.
there was I hope people felt
Please.
that out there, and I hope they hug their kids a little tighter because you
Please
just
be
never know.
better and
Life
different
can
than
be
you
kind of
are
hard.
being.
And last question, Madam Vice President, the photograph
Better
that
and
has
different
gone
than Joe
viral.
Biden.
You were speaking, one of your grandnieces that you were just talking
Yes.
about was watching you accept
She's casting
the
a
nomination.
spell
You didn't
on this
explicitly
child.
talk about gender or race in your speech, but it obviously means a lot to a lot of people, and that viral picture really says it. What does it mean to you?
Blast.
I am running because I believe that I am the best
Kamala
person to do
Cannon.
this job at this moment. For all Americans, regardless of race and gender. But I did see that photograph, and I was deeply touched by it. And you're right, it's the back of her head, her two little braids, and then I'm in the front of the photograph, obviously speaking. And
I'm speaking.
it's very humbling. It's very humbling in many ways.
Did she talk to you about it afterwards?
Oh, she had a lot to talk about. She had a lot. She listened to everything, and she listens to everything.
Give you your hot takes?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Madam Vice President, Governor Walz, thank you so much for your time.
Oh my God, that's it.
Thank you,
having
thank you,
us.
Dana. Thank you.
Wow.
This was Vice President Harris's first real unscripted setting where voters could see and hear her explain some of her policy positions now and how they differ from before she became vice president and
Yeah.
why. And this was the first we heard
Oh,
those
they act-
details
they-
about
they
an
differ.
extraordinary phone call from a president dropping out of the race and endorsing his vice president. Something
Oh, they differ. Oh, they differ. Wow.
to my friend and colleague Abby Phillip, who is standing by with some of the best political minds in the business. Abby?
We have them all
Liberals
here,
are going to
Dana.
eat this up,
You've given us
and
a
then
lot to
Republicans
chew
are going to
on.
hit
Our hats off to you.
hard
Thank
on
you very
everything
much.
they've been talking about.
around, though. We
You
will make
think
sure to
we've
come
just
back
heard
to
the
you
beginning of the
throughout the next
Bordazar
hour. I
narrative?
wanna get
They're
in the
going
room
max
here to get some initial
Bordazar.
reactions with
They're
our
hitting
great panel. Dave
everything,
Axelrod,
dude.
let's
They're
start
hitting
with you.
everything she's
What
going
did
to
you
talk
make
about. The
of
most lethal
how
military.
Vice President Harris
They're going to hit
did
Afghanistan
she
again. This
Yeah, I
is a
think she did what
nightmare.
she needed
This
to
is they
do.
just
What
dove
she
head
needed to
first
do was
into
be
the
the same
worst,
person
most
that people had
reactionary
seen
narratives about
on
their
the
own
stage for the
campaign.
last month,
This is a
and
fucking
have,
train wreck.
seen
This is
new
a
sense of
disaster.
confidence, of calm and
I'm being real.
comfortable comfort that we haven't seen before from her. We didn't see certainly the last time
They're
she
gonna
ran.
love
she was,
this.
She was very connected to her word. She seemed strong. She seemed competent. She seemed like someone who could be president of the United States. That was the first test.
All we're
thing,
gonna
'cause
hear
I know we
about
got a
is
lot of
flip-flop.
opinions here.
We have time for yours, don't
Yes,
worry.
but I think well, two things then. I think that she handled the issue of her changes or perceived changes in policy pretty well. I mean, I think the idea that her values have been the same and have been consistent was a good bridge there. One thing that I want to note is, we were asking the question earlier, how will she handle the president, and will she separate herself from the president?
That was,
and there might be
she didn't. She became him.
Does she want to be a continuation? That's what the Republicans will want to make her out to be. I'll give Scott the opportunity to do it in a second. But as she spoke,
every way she committed to
I
that.
thought it showed a certain character. The way she talked about
she reminded me
Joe
more of
Biden.
Obama personally.
She didn't run
I
away
wonder
from
why.
him. She gave him, I think, his due. She understands that there's some political risk to that.
That's what they keep
saying. That actually
saying.
was elevating to me in a way that I hadn't expected. So I think on the whole, this was a good night. It wasn't a huge, I don't think she moved the ball that much forward, but she certainly didn't fall back.
The do no harm principle of.
She was basically on defense the entire time and ran to Joe Biden's policies and Joe Biden's narratives on everything from the border. I mean, his recent narratives, not even the 2020 narratives on the border, which were more pro-immigrant. And, he won on being pro-immigrant. Literally everything is bad about that interview. She ran to the right, ran to Joe Biden. And it makes sense. I mean, the Democratic Party is like evangelizing Joe Biden. He died and now he's an angel. And, he's like a patron saint of the Democratic Party. Thank you, Joe Biden. That was literally like one of the themes of the DNC. All they did, we Joe. They literally had the signs, "We heart Joe." There was a guy who was hitting a woman and hitting people who were holding up the arms embargo sign. They were hitting them with "We heart Joe" signs. That's what Kamala continues to do. Literally is such a perfect analogy of what she's doing to anyone who cares about Gaza, really. A ceasefire is bipartisan. It's popular. But she frames it, when she was heckled earlier, I think yesterday or earlier today, I don't remember, in Michigan? No, in Georgia, in Savannah. She said, we need a ceasefire so we can have a hostage deal. That was the first thing. So we need a hostage deal and a ceasefire. There needs to be an arms embargo, or they're gonna continue their multi-front war and continue to try to drag America into it. And the State Department knows this. Joe Biden knows this. Joe Biden knows that Benjamin Netanyahu is doing this. I'm pretty in shock at how bad that interview was, though.